May 2025. The scariest part isn't that money is moving, it's that it's moving without you, and you only notice after your paycheck buys less, your savings feel lighter, and the biggest players have already switched rails. In May 2025, the US is still living in the same tension that defines every modern capitalist economy. Inflation won't fully die, rates stay restrictive, and the system keeps running. Until it doesn't. Prices don't have to explode to rob you. If inflation stays sticky while wages lag, your purchasing power gets shaved down month after month. Quiet, legal, relentless. That's the first theft. The second theft is faster. It's digital, and it doesn't care if you're careful. By early 2025, the world had another reminder that secure platforms can still be drained in minutes. When money becomes software, theft becomes scalable. One breach can move more value than 1,000 street crimes ever could. And once you understand that most money is now just authenticated messages, logins, keys, permissions, you realize the game isn't only economics anymore, it's cybersecurity. The third force is the most important, and almost nobody talks about it: the rerouting. Not the headlines, the plumbing, the custody, the settlement. The pipes that decide where value flows and who gets paid for moving it. That's the great wealth transfer in real life. Not a single crash, not one dramatic day, but a sequence of upgrades, policy moves, inflation waves, and digital breaches that keep pushing wealth in the same direction, toward the people who own the rails, the wrappers, and the infrastructure. Now pull the camera back. If you felt inflation in 2025, you already felt the aftershocks of what peaked in 2022. In 2022, the US, the UK, and Europe all hit a modern-era inflation shock. It wasn't abstract. It was rent, food, fuel, insurance, and the slow realization that cash is a melting ice cube when the system gets stressed. Inflation is the stealth tax on people who can't instantly reprice their lives. Asset owners can often outrun it. Wage earners usually can't. But 2022 didn't come from nowhere. March 2020 is where the accelerator got pinned. When the pandemic hit, central banks did what they always do when the system is at risk. They flooded it with support. Rates collapsed, emergency programs expanded, and liquidity became the medicine for fear. That's how you prevent a financial heart attack. But it also teaches markets a dangerous lesson. When things break, money appears. And once money can appear at scale, the currency unit changes. Not overnight, over time. Through expansion, through debt, through policy, through the reality that the easiest way to stabilize an economy is to weaken the currency just enough that nominal values rise and debt becomes easier to carry. Before 2020, there was November 2008. That was the moment extraordinary monetary policy stopped being a one-time response and became a toolkit. Large-scale asset purchases, balance sheets swelling, and a new era where financial stability was defended by printing capacity and policy credibility. That era never really ended. It just evolved. And if you want the true origin point of the modern money story, go back to August 1971. That's when the US severed the dollar's convertibility to gold. It was a clean break from a hard tether. From that moment on, money became a policy instrument more than a physical promise. It could be expanded faster than any metal supply. It could be managed, rescued, and redefined. That didn't doom the system, but it did change what the system fundamentally is. And everything after that, 2008, 2020, 2022, and the sticky aftermath in 2025 makes more sense when you see that one pivot. Now add the other timeline most people ignore. The timeline of theft. February 2016 proved something brutal at the highest level. You don't have to rob a bank vault if you can forge the instructions that move bank money. If money is a message, the crime is hijacking the message. That incident was a warning to the entire capitalist world. Financial infrastructure is an attack surface. May 2021 dragged cybercrime into the public's bloodstream. A ransomware attack hit critical infrastructure in the US, disrupting supply and triggering panic. The message was clear. The modern economy runs on networks, and networks can be held hostage. When that happens, the currency doesn't just lose value from inflation, it also faces a new premium. The cost of resilience, security, redundancy, paid by everyone, priced into everything. Then the digital asset era poured gasoline on the problem. As crypto and on-chain finance grew, the attack surface multiplied. Bridges, smart contracts, wallets, exchanges, new rails with new vulnerabilities. The theft numbers escalated because the speed and reach escalated. This isn't crypto drama. It's the predictable outcome of turning value into code before security and governance fully catch up. By early 2025, the lesson had been repeated again at massive scale. One exploit can vaporize fortunes in a way that looks unreal until you remember it's not gold being stolen. It's credentials, it's keys, it's permissions. It's software doing exactly what it was allowed to do, just for the wrong person. So here's the uncomfortable truth. In a modern capitalist system, wealth can be transferred three ways at once: through inflation, through policy, and through cyber risk. Inflation dilutes, policy redirects, cybercrime extracts. And while everyday people argue about narratives, the biggest institutions position themselves around the only thing that matters across all three forces: control of the rails. That's why the boring moves are the loudest signals. In December 2021, BlackRock spread major ETF custody and post-trade work across multiple Wall Street firms instead of leaning heavily on one provider. On the surface, it reads like operational risk management. In reality, it's a picture of the future. Diversify the pipes, harden the routes, prepare for scale. Because when money is always moving, always online, and always at risk, resilience becomes power. And when the largest asset managers embed their systems into how other institutions operate, technology platforms, portfolio tools, custody networks, something subtle happens. Distribution becomes automatic. Product shelves get shaped upstream. The default choices start getting baked into the machinery. That's not a conspiracy. That's how infrastructure wins. So what's actually migrating here? First, money is migrating from cash certainty to asset dependence. If inflation stays sticky, cash loses by default, and people are forced to take risk just to keep up. Second, money is migrating from public markets toward private markets and private credit, areas that often offer yield and diversification, but also opacity and complexity. Complexity is where fees survive. Fees are where toll collectors thrive. Third, money is migrating from bank-only rails into always-on digital rails. Wallets, tokens, instant settlement concepts, programmable ownership. That migration is sold as convenience and access. But every new rail is also a new place to attack, a new place to fail, and a new place for the biggest players to install themselves as gatekeepers. This is why May 2025 matters as an opening scene, because in May 2025, you're looking at the end result of decades of decisions, a world where inflation can linger, where policy must constantly manage stability, where money is digital enough to be stolen at scale, and where the winners are the ones who don't just invest in markets, they own the infrastructure markets run on. None of this is financial advice. It's a map of how the modern money system moves. And the punchline is simple. If you wait for the headline, you're late. The wealth transfer doesn't start when the crowd panics. It starts when the pipes get upgraded, the custody routes get rerouted, the cyber defenses become an arms race, and inflation quietly keeps scoring points against your savings.